Good day, everybody. How's it going out there? Well, it's January 2023, which means the Ursa Majors are coming up. There was an issue that happened last year, and I covered it on a video and on an article about how the voting system is very susceptible to sort of populism and things like that, which can lead to, some victories that, are victories because it's a popular vote after all. But at the same time, it can sacrifice things of quality that could otherwise win. So I think that in order to help and assist in getting a more active voter base is to bring attention to some of the works more directly, as opposed to just letting a list happen and people not be aware that the Ursa Majors are coming up. So basically how the Ursa Majors are going to work is sometime in the month of February usually, it's going to open up for nominations. And when you can basically select up to 5 things that you wish to nominate, and every nomination gets a point, and then basically the top 5 items that were nominated the most will become part of the main voting. And then in the main voting, there's a whole other process, and the whole article goes over it. So I won't dim you down with the details as of today. But today I wanted to do the one category that I thought last year really kind of was harmed the most from this sort of campaigning experiment that was done by the one zealous creator, and that is dramatic shorts. And we did cover a video on that. So instead of complaining and whining, it's up to me to do something that I think will help move things in the right direction. So I wanted to share with you my thoughts for dramatic shorts. So basically, I went through the recommended list in the Ursa Majors, and also some of the ones I saw just based on random Google recommendations as well. Because sometimes I started watching dramatic short films with anthro characters, and all of a sudden Google started recommending 1 or 2, and I'm like, cool, that's actually useful. Please do that more often. You'll probably get some of them too if you're watching this video. It's a very niche, this furry arts and anthropomorphism things. So anyways, I'm going to go over 11 of them really quick. The reason I picked 11 was because I kind of gave it a rating system of like 1 to 5, and I was kind of sorting them out on a spreadsheet, and then I was like, okay, some of them tied with first because they were all 5s, and some of them, the one for 10th and 11th was pretty close. So I decided to do that. So the link to every single one of these videos will be in the description below, and the link to the article, which I review these in words, can also be seen in the description below. But anyways, let's move on. The first one that I think was the most profound and emotionally impactful for me as a short, and it basically is a dramatic short. It's like 5 minutes. But it's a good 5 minutes. It does exactly what it needs to do and how it needs to do it, is these dramatic short horns. Now, I'm not going to play any of the videos on this thing because I would like you to go to their site and watch the video there. So, if you want to watch these and then hear my views on them, go ahead and pause the video and then, go right click and do all that. But I will have spoilers sort of as I talk about them. So horns is a animation of a father bringing his young child to a sort of a truck rally, and so bring your child to work day. And so the animation, like the first part of the animation, is the child, going around the truck rally and doing the whole, moving your hand up and down, honk the horn kind of a thing. And like the really cool thing about the animation is that, or the short itself, is that when the horn is honked, it's not a sound effect. It is like there's a nice medley song going on in the background, and the horn, when it sounds like a trumpet sort of pushes its way into the song and then fades out. And the way that they had done the sound design on it made the horn chilling to me. It was a very chilling sound. And if you've ever had a freaking trucker honk at you, whether it's expected or not expected, it is kind of an intense rattling, right? It sort of rattles you a bit, and it did that to great effect. Not only in the spontaneous joy of the first part of the film, but in the second part, when it goes into like the more somber thing, and then it makes the horn sound for the last time, and the emotional weight that is held on that. So I'm not going to spend more than 5 minutes talking about it, but it's really, really good. It does what it's supposed to do, and it has double meaning, like because they're goat. I think they're goat characters, so like they have horns because they're billy goats, I think, and so like they have horns, and so it has all these meanings, and I always like dual meanings and things like that. So the next animation is Legend of Pee-Pee. As they give us Legend of Pee-Pee, The Legend of Pee-Pee. This was a bit longer, but it is funny, and it does what it does really well. It is if you like a Shrek kind of adventure, that you have like a subversion of fantasy tropes, with a strange hero character that you wouldn't expect. This is the kind of animation that you would like. It does very interesting things with its animation. It shows that they can do smooth animation, but like the animation's not perfect on purpose. Like it has items where like like the cat like when you're going on all these different adventures and it just slides from one adventure to the other. The transitions are excellent. The subversion of expectations is excellent. The ending is very funny, and the funny thing is like the thing, it's like I said, it's sort of like Shrek, but the only thing they really have in common is probably odd dragon relations at some point in the animation, that makes you go huh a little bit. The furries are like, yeah, you go dragon, but at the end of the thing, I really liked it for its sense of grandioseness. It presented the story that it wanted to tell, and it did it in a very humorous and fun way, and I really liked it. So, and it was like less than 10 minutes, and that's pretty cool. This one's probably the longest one of the three that we've talked about so far, and this is Rhino and Red Bill. So the first one didn't have voice acting, I must note that. The second one had decent voice acting. The third one has really good voice acting. Most of the ones that I have on this list have pretty good voice acting. There's only one critique, I think, in this whole 11 that I had for voice acting where there are voices. But people know Rhino and the Red Bill. If you're a YouTube watcher, you probably know this one a little bit because Adler the Eagle voiced the bird character. This adventure is sort of supposed to be a pilot, and I don't know whether or not they're going to continue the story or not, or if it's just one of those pilots that's going to hang out there forever. But even if it is a pilot that just hangs out there forever, it's good for what it is. It's about 13 minutes, and it's about a rhino character and a bird and their bird companion, sort of a symbiotic relationship in the very literal sense, because the rhino can barely see, and like they're mostly blind. So the bird's sort of their eyes, and communicates to him like actions that he's supposed to do on the fly. But Sam also needs it's not Sam. The bird, I think their name's Red Bill. They need help from the rhino too, because they have they have a burden that they cannot handle themselves, right? They're trying to bring an egg somewhere, and because they can't carry the egg themselves because they're too fragile, they rely on the rhino to do that. And so like you see this adventure where the rhino has to have trust in, the bird, and the bird sort of like tries to do some, tries to take a shortcut for urgency's sake, and then, it puts their friendship to the test, and the situation they find themselves, puts their ability to work together to the test. And it's very well animated, very well voice acted. The atmosphere is great. The action cinematography is really, really good, because there's some intense action scenes in this short, but what's going on during those scenes. There's no confusion as to, the relations between where this character is and what that character is doing, and things like that. So very good cinematography, very well animated, very well voice acted, very well worth your time. Bidoof's Big Stand. So there was a bunch of Pokemon ones that came up. Interestingly, there was like on the recommended list. Interestingly, there was like another like Scraffy one that looked like a 1920s animation, which was pretty cool. Except when I watched it to the very end, there at the bottom it said 2020 copyright. So even though the Pokemon group uploaded that video in 2022, it was actually published in 2020, so it wasn't qualified in my mind. So just note that. Bidoof here. Though, like of the Pokemon animations, of which there were several, I think this one is the best short. And I kind of tried to keep it to one per author, if there were multiple suggestions for an author. And same with this one. The reason that I really like this one, it was a good underdog story. No verbal communication. So it's basically action oriented. Which, same with the first video on this list, and same with some others down the line that I'll point out. The humans don't talk. Like, it is a story of the Bidoof, and like it's an aloof Bidoof, an underdog story of like this Pokemon that, isn't very helpful to, his kind in the wild, and so he, kind of like becomes like very forlorn, and then basically gets caught by a trainer, and he has this dream that the trainer, like, if he gets caught by a trainer, then all of a sudden, like, he'd be like a Pokemon, he'd be the very best Pokemon, and so he gets worried, and then but then he's like not really used that much because he's a Bidoof. And then the final sort of third act where he fights against, he's basically the last one, the last stand, the big stand as it were, against his opponent, which has two Pokemon left, a Graveler and a bird. I don't remember the bird's name. I've retired from Pokemon. Like, Gen 3 or 2 was around where I kind of like forget the names. Skarmory, I think maybe it was its name. The bird's name. It's the one with the big, like, it's the black and white one. It's the one from Black and White with like the weird thing on the head. But the thing that was really cool that I really, really liked was, in the climax, there was a bee. Like, basically, they kind of were inspired, I think, by Dragon Ball Super. There's a scene where Goku goes Ultra Instinct against another Super Saiyan character in a tournament, and like she's like basically blasting everything and throwing everything she's got at Goku as he's charging up a Kamehameha blast in Ultra Instinct mode, and he's able to dodge while he's not standing still while he's charging the Kamehameha. He's dancing around and jumping across things, and he jumps up in the air, and she's like, "You can't move, I'm gonna hit you." And so she just takes this huge beam and just shoots it at Goku. And as Goku is, and this series is 5 years old at this point, so I mean, I haven't seen the full thing. I've seen like little bits and pieces of it, like memes, I kind of fell off on Dragon Ball Z around probably after the Cell Saga a little bit. But basically, like, she shoots, I don't know what the character's name is, she shoots like the Kamehameha wave, and Goku just basically, while the beam is coming at him, he's able to like twist his body around a little bit using his Kamehameha ball to kind of skirt over the beam and just hit her straight in the face. And it's like a very, very cool scene, a very interesting scene. And at the end of the whole thing, like, it was like, oh man, that was so awesome. this thing does that as well, only like it uses an established Bidoof thing where he's like he randomly sneezes sometimes to his detriment. And so Bidoof like jumps up to attack the Skarmory. I think that's the name of it. No, it's not Skarmory. That's the silver one. And the bird. I just realized I was using the Gen 2 name. It's not Skarmory. It's the I don't know. It's the bird. So the bird shoots the laser at the Bidoof, and the Bidoof goes, he sneezes, and basically, as a hyper beam is coming at him, he rolls and then basically hits the Skarmory while they're still shooting the bird while they're still shooting the beam, right? And so like I thought that was really cool. And when I went back to look at the scene that I knew that I thought was inspired by it. And the interesting thing is that this short version that's sort of inspired by it, it's a lot cleaner, right? The way that the Bidoof is jumping around and dodging things, and the his final like counter roll over the beam, everything is well telegraphed. You know where he is compared to his opponent. Whereas, like, if you go back to the Dragon Ball Super scene, when he's charging the Kamehameha wave and jumping around, it's like, is he in front of her? Is he behind her? Like, she's shooting lasers all over the place, and he's, like, jumping around, and it's like, where is he and her? And not until the very end where he's, like, jumping and she's shooting the beam forward and he's coming up underneath, do you realize, okay, this is where they're positioned. Whereas with the Bidoof thing, it's like he's always in front of and beneath, and you know that because, like, it's better conveyed. So I thought even though it was inspired by that scene, it handled it a lot better, and so I think it was well animated. This is the longest one, I believe, of the shorts that I did. It's still less than a half hour, which I think is what qualifies it. But it's Monkey Wrench. The thing that really stood out about this one is the excellent voice acting, excellent cadence, different characters. If you close your eyes, you would know what character's speaking, because they all have, genuine inflections, genuine character in their voices. Very well done. The other thing also is that the characters are animated when they're talking, which is very rare in animation, especially when you're talking about independent short film animation, or even professional anime or animation. You see, the lip flap. They're like, ba 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 ba, and then ba ba ba. No, ba 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 ba. They don't go like woo, and they're not like going, "Hey buddy, how you doing?" It's like, "Hey buddy, how you doing?" They stand there and do it. No, they get the body involved, and I really, really, really enjoyed that. They really stuck that throughout the entire thing, even when it was sort of to its detriment. I think there was only one scene where, like, the character was talking to this sort of cat bounty hunter, trying to follow our protagonists and trying to get them to turn over the bounty. And the conversation between the protagonist and the at the moment antagonist of the cat, was animated. They were like, "Oh, and I'm gonna shoot you, and then I'm gonna shoot you." Like, at that point where they're kind of getting into more serious, like, I'm going to attack you kind of a thing, the animation of, like, making their faces go ooh and things like that, it may not be as helpful. It's sort of like the animator knew that, like, I'm doing something that I hate not seeing other animators do, and I'm going to frickin' milk the hell out of it. And it's sort of like, and I in the review here, in the written review, I mark it as sort of like, in written works, authors sometimes shy away from the word said. Like, hello there, he said, right? They'll say, like, hello there, he greeted, right? They'll use some other word that conveys an action instead of conveying that a dialogue happened, right? Whereas, so like, you can overdo it, is what I'm saying. Like, it's okay to it's okay to say he said sometimes. It's okay to just use the word said, and let the person fill in the emotion or do that. But it was only like once or twice in the animation that I felt it was overdone. Every other time, very well done. The climactic, there's like two main battle scenes, like between people in the animation, and they did very well with cinematography, making sure everyone is you know where the characters are, especially that finale scene where they're fighting in this the space station and the anti-grav sort of comes on, and it was sort of a callback to earlier in the episode where the protagonist's ship doesn't have really good gravity. They're sort of on the fritz, so the gravity sometimes falls apart, and so they get used to like moving around the ship without gravity on, and then like all of a sudden the gravity gets messed up in the final battle, and that sort of gives the protagonist an edge and then he's like, and you can tell on his smile, he's like, oh yeah, I got an edge now because, and they made that play into the battle narratively, and also like as far as like the cinematography goes and the positions of the characters, like even though there's like sort of like this battle royale going on between like three or four different parties, like you know where the characters are at each time. They each take hits. They each the battle is not like one-sided too much. It's like the characters will take hits. They'll move around, and but sort of in the playing field where they are, which is amazing because that's really hard to convey with so many characters going on. So very well with your time. There's some funny moments. The dialect of the protagonist's client is a very well known meme. Ooh, let me do it for you. No, that's not it. That's another meme. But they go ghosting, please, no. It's like it's a very interesting dialogue, and I like the dialogue. I like the action. Very well done. Not as anthropomorphic as some of the other ones. So, like, I mean, the supporting cast is very much animal characters, more so than like, yeah. The big protagonist, I think, sort of has an Earthworm Jim sort of vibe to his animation style and his character style. I don't know what kind of animal they're supposed to be, but yeah, I mean, it's still really good. It's still got plenty of anthro characters, so I still think it qualifies absolutely. Tales of Zale, Flickering Lights. This one's a little bit weird. I like it. It's very well animated. The art style is very nice. This is where I start to have like there's little things. There's like a sort of an A plot and a B plot going on with this story, and like I think that like the atmosphere of the world that they're building is very nice. There seems to be a post-human apocalypse where like the animal characters are sort of living in this post-human world, and this fox is trying to find others of its kind. It sounds like the fox is like doesn't know if they're the only one left or something like that, and so they constantly go looking around a city ruins for any companionship. And that's sort of the A plot. The B plot, has to do with like their friend Bird character. There's a friend they have that's a bird character, and they're responsible for their sister. That the fox goes off to the ruins, and the bird has to stay behind because there's a storm coming. And there are multiple times in this animation, even though the art and the style and the story are decent, that there's a lot of things where tension starts to ramp up, and then the tension just alleviates. Like the fox enters a building, and then like there's like these cat people that follow him towards the building, and like they seem like they're sinister, and like there's going to be a fight, but then it just kind of is like, we know each other, and like it's just like these guys are just to make this look tense, even though it wasn't really tense. And then the cat character later on, when the bird's trying to fly to the fox friend and find them, like pounces on the bird, and then there's like this conflict between the two about the bird wanting to see their friend and blah blah blah. And it seems like there's going to be some sort of tension or something, and then it sort of alleviates off screen. And so there's like situations of consequences that aren't really fulfilled. Like the bird character had the youngest sister that he was supposed to look after, and he left her basically at the tree when the storm happened, and then there was a fire off in the distance somewhere, and it's like, and we later on see like in the fog after everything's done, you know, the young bird sister there seems to be okay, unless they're dead. I don't know. Like there's some hanging threads. It's a 7-minute piece. It's not as concise as the other ones, but the animation style is great. The characters' voices are pretty well done, and it seems like it was a very small team that did this. And for what it is, very beautiful animation. What I really liked in that animation of the Tale of Zales is the environment. The environment's interaction with the characters was excellent. Rain had weight, you know, and you know, in a simple drawing style like that, and like where it's animated in a very 2D, artful sort of way, implementing environmental situations like wind and water into those animations is no easy feat, and they did very well with that. So that's the reason that it boosted it a little bit above some of the others here. So this is sort of in order from top to bottom of my favorite 11. The Egg 2D short film. I liked it. I like the animation style and the characters. It's similar to Zale. It's a little more simple than Zale. And the story's a little bit more simple than Zale too. There's an A thread and there's only an A thread. And if you're making a short film, I would recommend that you try to keep it. You don't need a B plot, right? B plots are more for larger form content that's over like a half hour long. Even the Monkey Wrench one, which was a half hour, didn't really have a B plot. It did focus on the A plot the whole way through. So since you're only making a short film, try to focus on an A plot with one character. It does help, and that's what this one did. You know, this person finds an egg and they're trying to find out who lost it. Very simple story, very well animated. There is a conflict at the end where there's like sort of a battle. It's a very simple one though compared to some of the others earlier on. The voice acting was okay. I think only the main character really had a voice. The range of the voice actor I don't think is as strong as a lot of the other entries in these. When in the final conflict where, you know, they have the egg and then a predator's going to take the egg from them, the character goes, "No, I can't let you have it," before they fight. And there's no emotion to it. It's like, "No, I won't let you have it." Like there's no emotion to it. It's sort of like a matter-of-fact statement. And so, like, I think that, you know, having a little more emotion in that kind of a scene would have made that scene have more weight. But the animation's pretty good, and I like the art style for sure. So that's that one. Next one here is Out of the Inkwell. This one's not like really furry, which is kind of like why I docked like at this point, like these are all still 4 stars out of 5. And into like 4.5s and stuff like that. So none of these really go below like the 4.5 level, in my mind. So you have the Out of the Inkwell here. This one, when I was doing research for it and looking for, because I messed up the link in my spreadsheet, so I had to go Googling it. And when I was Googling it, I found another animation, which was Out of the Inkwell, which was a 1921 piece. And there's a link to that one in the article, which clearly inspired this one. The thing I really like, not really anthropomorphic in the sense that like there's a cartoon character who's an animal. Um, you know, it's sort of like a Toonie and sort of like an Animaniac style of cartoon character, right? They have like little animal ears. There's some nondescript animal. But the interesting thing about the animation in this out of the Inkwell is that the real world is developed in a 3D animation style with like human character that has like a 3D animation, and they're basically creating a cartoon character, and that cartoon character comes to life, and they have to the animator has to try and rein in their creation. It's a tale as old as time. As I said, it was inspired by a 1921 animation that did something similar. Only the 1921 animation was like between like this clown character and the animator. But the interesting thing about that one is that they actually integrated in 1921. They like did a Who Frames Roger Rabbit kind of a thing where they were integrating this animated character and their actions into the real world to mess with the real life animator, right? And technically, like this, like it's 1921. It's silent film, so there's like this weird piano medley, and even after the 7-minute mark for the old one, from the 1921 one, it got old. Like the song, the piano playing got old, and it didn't really change dynamically to match the situation. So the sound production on the 1921 was crap, but everything else was like really really good. Like there's like really technical like cool things. Like they had the human character like climbing buildings, going into like back alleyways, trying to find this creation. And the creation just keeps messing with them in various different ways. So similarly, this Out of the Inkwell kind of follows that. And some of the cool things that they do with it is like they have this 2D character moving around this 3D space and interacting with, the elements in that way. Like the Toonie character will like push some books off a shelf, and then like as the human character is trying to catch the books, like they have a stack of books in their hand, it's unwieldy, and then the Toon jumps onto the books, the 3D space of books, and they're 2D sort of like Paper Mario kind of thing where they're moving in the 3D space, but they're still 2D and dancing around on the books as he falls over, and also the way that the Toon gets hit with a cup of coffee, and then the Toon starts to melt, right? And like they're 2D melting into sort of a 3D space, and so very good animation, taking advantage of the two different spaces and how they interact with each other is very interesting. But I still think technically the 1921 is still a little bit more technically impressive for the technology at the time. And that's, as I said in the article, that's sort of the problem that you have when you wear your influences on your sleeve, is sometimes the things that you were influenced by are still more technically impressive than the thing that you derived from it. Though still technically impressive and still very good animation, is not as like technically like, whoa, that's freaking cool what they were able to do than the 1921 version. Summer Escape. This one hit emotionally a little bit, not as much as Horns did, but it's very much an in the moment animation. It sort of starts off as a sort of like remembering our summer vacation kind of a thing, and then as the story goes on, you start to realize that the person's remembering the time that they had with friends, and that they're not hanging out with them anymore. So you start to think, if this animation were at any other time, you think, oh well, maybe they lost their friends, or maybe they don't hang out with each other anymore, or maybe they're growing up and grown apart. But about the midway section, you see the whole like coronavirus and having to stay a distance apart, and at the end you see him talking to their friends on sort of a technology Zoom call kind of a thing. And I think that the reason I like this animation is because it is a factor of acknowledgement of the situation that most of us went through in 2020, in the 2020s, early 2020s, and it's good to have that sort of acknowledgement. It is very cathartic. Um, I think the animation sort of it gets some of the things jumbled a little bit though, and then there's some technical nerdy stuff that I put in the article here when I wrote about it. Like they were watching a Sonic movie or something like that, which came out around when coronavirus was starting to become a big threat. But the television was saying like get vaccinated, which from 2020 to like late 2021 wasn't a thing. Like vaccinations were not really a big thing that was available to a lot of people until I think it was May of 2021 was when vaccinations were available to most of us. I know that because that's when I got mine, and I had to wait until after, all the medical people and all the more vulnerable populations and things like that could get theirs. So the issue is that so that there was sort of a weird little thing where it's like, well, they have to isolate and talk to each other on the Zoom call, but at the same time, vaccines are out, and not too far after the vaccines came out, were people just starting to get together, even though they took precautions. It was more from it seemed to be more from 2020 up into that they were doing that. So it's sort of like. It's sort of confusing as to when the timeline is. But other than that, I think it was very well done and sentimental, and the song and the style was pretty good. Young Alchemist. This one is a very short, simple animation. I liked it. I like the sort of like building of this character as a young alchemist, and they have their earlier part of the animation has the character doing a lot of things with liquids and stuff like that. And in the as I said, drawing liquids and having them interact with each other in an animation to make it seem fluid, pun intended, is difficult. It's a very tricky thing, and they did it very well. When the character takes the potion, that fluidity that is only done with the fluids is actually brought into the character itself in more ways than one. And you see like these swirling things. It's sort of like a very light version of Elephants on the Parade from Dumbo, where like all these different things are moving, and you see these chromosomes and these like little pieces, and like they're moving around, and it's very trippy, but it conveys what's going on and what the potion is doing very well, even though there's no spoken dialogue. It is a sort of an animation about the young alchemist changing, and whether or not they're the person who they're studenting under will accept those changes. And I think it was very well animated. Suds. Interestingly, Suds doesn't let you embed in that, so that's why it's not on this article. Suds is the last one that sort of tied with the one above it. I liked Suds in that it's a very simple story about a daughter and a mother, and the daughter trying to grow and become their own person as an adult, while still sort of worrying about their mother's approval on things. And the one thing, like, it's a short animation, the one thing I would take away from it is that there's a flashback segment in there. It's a very short animation, like 5 minutes, but there's like a 1 minute, sort of a 1 minute or maybe half a minute chunk, like that's sort of a flashback, which I don't think is necessary. Basically, the daughter sees a mother and a kid come into her laundry shop, right? So she owns a laundry shop, and this mother and kid come in, and the kid's dancing around, and then he accidentally bumps a thing of laundry soap detergent off of the table, and it spills on the ground. And when the koala owner, the daughter of the main character, sees that happen, she's sort of taken aback a little bit, and she sort of cringes a little bit. So you kind of like just through that simple emotional conveyance of the anime, like, and that's really good. Like when there's no spoken words in this one, similar to like I think there's only like 4 of the 11 had like spoken dialogue, or 5. This one didn't have spoken dialogue, which going back a little bit to this one here, like in the order that I watched them, I saw a bunch of them without dialogue, and then like the Egg 2D animation one here, as I said, does have a character that speaks, and that threw me off guard because it starts off this Egg animation here starts off with like that. It starts off looking like a simple animal animation, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a cute little animal animation where the animal characters are interacting with each other and don't speak, and then the character speaks, and I'm like, oh my god, the character spoke. So yeah, that happened. Because there's a lot of these animations here that don't have voice acting. Suds is also one of those that don't have voice acting. But the emotional conveyance in the koala's eyes when they saw the kid bump into the table and knock the thing down was enough. It was enough for me to understand the situation, because there was only one scene before that, and that was the koala was like getting a phone call from their mom on the phone, and they didn't answer, right? So there's an estrangement there, and it's like, what is the estrangement with their mother? And then you see that scene with the kid, and that look of like sort of fearing and grimacing when like the kid knocked over the thing. And so at that point I know exactly what happened. It's like she was much more stringent towards her daughter. Her mother was much more stringent towards her and much more forceful if she made mistakes than what ends up happening with the kid and that mother in her shop, because it ends up that the mother's like just pay the owner for a thing of detergent and to replace the one that you just knocked over, and no harm, no foul, or just buy one from her, right? And help clean up and things. So like they, unfortunately after that, I think the animator lost sort of they wanted to really convey it and make sure that the user could convey it, so they actually did a flashback where the young owner, the laundromat owner, is a younger child, and they're seeing a flashback where they're dancing to rock and punk music, and then they knock over a thing of water, and the mother comes in and scowls her. So that scene I don't think was entirely necessary. It was okay to have. It didn't hurt anything really, but I don't think it was necessary, because I think that the previous 2 scenes establish exactly those things without any need for a flashback. Other than that, very well done. But the style is very nice. The emotional conveyance through just expression is excellent. So I think that it's worthy of being in the top 11. So those are my top 11 picks for this year. If you have any other short animations that you like this year that were not on this list, please let me know in the comment section below, and I can give them a watch. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and hope you enjoy those pieces, those works, as the artists put a lot of time and effort into them. And I hope that one of these 11 pieces ends up winning the Ursas this year. It'd be nice to see. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. Kick that like, kick a subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section, and share any of the other animations that you enjoyed. Have a good one, guys. See you next week.